Hook Facts and SandyHookFacts.com. I am your host, C.W. Wade. This is my latest installment in Sandy Hook, the Deadliest Minute series, so named because the most deadly minute in civilian mass shooting history occurred in Room 8 of Sandy Hook School on December 14, 2012. This segment is entitled Fallen Angel. I debated long and hard whether to do a video detailing the aftermath of the shooting. This video will cover just one aspect of the aftermath. The fact of the matter is we are dealing with the murder of small children, and I'm very conscious of that. I believe that only through detailed factual analysis of Sandy Hook can we begin to truly understand the war crime level tragedy that happened that day. My heart does go out to all the families, and if you can't deal with the graphic study of this tragedy, then this is probably where you need to turn this video off. I am empathetic to that view, and I do apologize if anybody finds it offensive that I'm looking at this. So, with that said, I am going to go ahead and take a look at this. Recently, a viewer of mine pointed out that Officer Chapman and Lieutenant Bengali can be seen carrying one of the victims on the dash cam, so I decided that I would do a full analysis of that scene.
We don't want to suspect down. Roger, 921, suspect down, 951.
The time period on that day was just before 10 a.m. The shooter has committed suicide, and the police have entered the school and are beginning to check the victims following their training and Connecticut's mandated smart triage protocols in conjunction with active shooter police procedures. As I've discussed in my blog, in accordance with smart triage, anyone who has sustained massive trauma or wounds that are obviously incompatible with life and there are no respirations are considered black tag, or the police sometimes call them dead right there, or DRT, and the bodies are left there. They are not removed. Newtown Officer Chapman, seen here, is checking the victims in room 10 when he discovers a little girl who has sustained multiple gunshots. However, she is still breathing. Since it is an active shooter scene, the ambulances are being instructed to stage at the Sandy Hook Firehouse, and he, escorted by Lieutenant Bengali, carry the girl across the parking lot. On the same day of the shooting, Newtown B reporter Shannon Hicks captured the scene and it was put in a video. So this photo was well known and has been around since the very first day. For this, we're going to look at the report. We have the picture from Shannon Hicks that was published December 14th, 2012, and we have dash cam footage.
31. 555. Newtown's reporting. One suspect down. The building has not been cleared.
We a couple more cars up at the scene.
The first thing we're going to look at is Officer Seabrook's dash cam. Time is 9:42 and Lieutenant Bengali is in front driving the black SUV. And there's a couple of reasons I want to show this. The first is you can see there are no ambulances staged yet. You can get an idea at the cars parked in the parking lot at the time, so we'll get into that more in a minute.
Again, be advised, last known shots were in the front of the school.
The next time frame we have on video is about 9:45. This dash cam is Lieutenant Davis. You have to add a minute 21 to his dash cam to get the true time. Because of radio transmissions, we know that the ambulance is staged to the rear of the firehouse. And while this dash cam is a little blurry, you can see that likely only a car back there at the time. And again, you can get an idea of how the cars are parked. The next dash cam is 56732. It's McGeever. You can see the white van where the children who escaped from Route 10 were loaded and taken to Newtown PD. Time is about 9:46. He's turning around. The firehouse will be on the left. And as McGeever's turning left, you can clearly see that the ambulance is coming down the road. I believe that's Newtown A2. If you slow it down and look at it, you can even see the lights are going at the top. Doesn't appear ambulances are there yet. And again, you can get an idea of what cars are parked there. The last car we have is Trooper First Class Blumenthal. He is a registered nurse. His file is 54837. He had 20 seconds to his time. When he turns, you can see the ambulance is parked on the left towards the end of the driveway there, behind the Sandy Hook firehouse. You can also start to see the different positionings of the cars. We know as the tragedy unfolded that the driveway eventually came packed with cars, and then they of course sealed it off and no more cars were permitted in or out. And so we can learn some things by looking at the cars that are there during the early moments captured by the dash cam versus the cars that are there when the helicopters are flying over between 10:40 and noon. We can map out the cars that we can see in Blumenthal's. We can see the white SUV and the two cars that are parked facing east. On the left hand, we can see that there's only the white SUV. Blumenthal pulls up. You can clearly see it's just that one gray car, and then you can see the other cars on the right-hand side. So all those cars that we can see right here, you can verify through Blumenthal's dash cam. All of those cars that I circled were not there when Blumenthal pulled in at 9:53. That white Jeep, those cars, the paramedic truck. There's one vehicle I want you to take note of. It's this white Jeep. It's clearly a civilian vehicle. That vehicle is not there when any of the dash cams are pulling in. So it arrived after the dash cams and before this helicopter footage. You can see it here. It has the yellow caution tape that's been tied around the mirrors. So they're using it to hold up the caution tape. Vehicle can be clearly seen from the helicopter in photos of the day. The only time you don't see it is in the dash cams. Or do you? Let's take a look at that again. This is Blumenthal. And there's the white Jeep. It's pulled over to allow the police vehicles to pass by. Then it's going to follow behind the police vehicles into the parking lot. Now we all recognize this photo. This is another one of the photos by Shannon Hooks. And this is Shannon Hooks' Facebook page. You will notice a white Jeep. She still owns and drives that white Jeep even today. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the white Jeep that you see in the helicopter in photos of the day. It arrived just behind the police vehicles at around 9:46, and she got out and she took this photo first. This photo is of Detective Zulu running into the Sandy Hook schoolhouse. We have corroborating evidence from the dash cams at the time he went running into there. And I think it's obvious to me that Shannon Hicks was in the parking lot a few minutes before she thought she was. So she was only a few minutes off. But she snapped this photo. And soon thereafter, Shannon Hicks took this photograph of Chapman carrying the girl, escorted by Vangeli and some others. The report graphically describes the scene of where the child was removed, describing that she was found under the table. You can see it in the map. There was blood and tissue found where she was laying before Chapman picked her up. So it's a very graphic scene. Officer Vangeli's report describes the scene. Vangeli's report is document 2060, if you want to review it. I then noticed Officer Chapman running toward me with a little girl in his arm. This may have occurred prior to me searching the cafeteria and the main office. My memory is unclear as to the order. I opened the front door of the school for Officer Chapman and ran with him through the parking lot of the school. I heard him say, "Come on, sweetie, come on, sweetie." At first I thought the child had fainted, and then I noticed all the blood on her. Then there's redacted. We were running towards the ambulance that was near the back of the Sandy Hook firehouse. There were adults that I believed to be parents that were in the parking lot of the school yelling at us. I yelled that it was an unsecure scene and that they needed to find safety and get back in their cars. Officer Chapman brought the girl into an ambulance. The next one to look at real quick is Officer Smith. He was also in room 10. He later carried the boy and the girl that were found in the restroom of room 10 out to safety. So there's dash cam footage of that is redacted. His report is document 47345. He writes, Officer Chapman and I entered the classroom. I observed an adult female lying on the ground at the front of the classroom who was obviously deceased. While checking the room for a second suspect, I located 2 uninjured children, 1 male and 1 female, inside the restroom at the rear of the room. Told them they were safe, and I instructed them to keep the door closed, and I shut the bathroom door. During that time, Officer Chapman had checked everyone else in the room for a pulse and located 1 female child with a pulse. Officer Chapman carried the female out of the building, and I maintained by the classroom door. So they're an active shooter. Chapman has, I think, 3 files, but the one we're going to look at is 258086. I walked past the shooter. I recall noting that he had injuries incompatible with life, but still having no desire to offer him medical aid either way. I moved victim to victim, checking their pulse and for breathing. The last victim that I checked was a little girl. I do not know her name at this time, and we will not say it as part of this analysis either. Then it's redacted. I slung my rifle across my back, which we see in the photo. I briefly ran out into the hallway, and I do not recall my exact statements, but I requested that an ambulance come and requested officers to provide cover while I took someone out. Someone told me go. I went back into the classroom and picked her up and carried her out of the building. I saw Lieutenant Vangeli and told him I needed an ambulance. I began running across the parking lot towards Dickinson Drive with the girl in my arms, praying that she would live and telling her that she was safe, that Jesus loved her, and that I was protecting her. I stopped several times and got on one knee to check her pulse. Then it's redacted. I saw multiple adult civilians at the northeast corner of the parking lot, and police officers instructing them to get back and stay back. The civilians were screaming for an ambulance to get up here. And so we're going to listen to that. That's on 911 calls. I recall being terrified that the girl's parents were among the civilians present. I realized that the ambulance was remaining staged per their procedure, and they would not come further into the scene. I then got up and ran down onto Dickinson Drive with the girl and got onto the ambulance. I advised the ambulance crew, redacted, and then sprinted back to the school. So that's a summary of Officer Chapman's recollection of what happened. So let's look at some of the other evidence. We have always had this picture that has always been out there. You can see the little girl in Officer Chapman's arm, and the rifle is slung across his back just as he described, and you can see Lieutenant Vangeli, who is notable because he's wearing a white shirt. He has the raid vest over the white shirt. Officer Blumenthal's video. There you see Detective Zulu run by. Blumenthal run in. So later, about 9:56. There they are. Watch this in slow motion. But we'll freeze frame them, and you can see that it's Lieutenant Vangeli in the white shirt with the raid vest. And you can see that somebody's carrying something. You can't necessarily make out that it's Chapman. But you can see that it matches that photograph. Now we've heard the descriptions from the officers of the parents yelling. So let's listen to a 911 call that was happening at this exact time.
State Police Emergency.
Yes, we need an ambulance at Sandy Hook School.
This is the time, 9:56:30.
Okay.
Are you injured?
No. I'm just on the scene in the parking lot. I
supports
just
the
hear
officer's
people
statement.
screaming ambulance.
People are injured. How many people?
This is another one. This one starts at 9:56:47.
They need an ambulance at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut as soon as possible. They're shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown. We need an ambulance here.
We've got people
Also see in the
coming.
There's no
photos.
ambulance here. There's no
We're
ambulance.
getting the ambulance, sir. We're getting everyone down there.
All right.
Okay.
This next call is at the same time. It's 9:57:04.
Police emergency. Are you calling in for the shooting in Newtown?
Yes.
Okay. Are you injured?
No.
No. Are you in the building?
No, I'm outside the building at the school.
Okay. Were you involved in it? Did you
No,
get...
no. So I just came here and I heard people yell out and we need an ambulance.
Okay.
Again at the same time. This
State
call's
Police
at
911, what's the patient
9:57:17.
emergency?
I need an ambulance at Sandy Hook Elementary
Okay.
School in Newtown.
Take a deep breath. Where are you in the school?
I'm outside of the school. There was apparently a
People are
shooting.
screaming for an
Okay.
ambulance.
And people are screaming for an ambulance.
And this is probably the most horrific calls.
State police emergency. State police emergency.
We need an ambulance.
All right, listen.
This is
Ma'am,
at 9:57:36.
have you been
This
shot?
lady clearly states that she sees an officer and a dead girl.
Somebody's getting shot. What happened?
Okay, where did
We
it
need an
happen?
ambulance.
Listen, you got to calm down. I cannot understand you. Whereabouts are you in the school?
Sandy Hook School. What happened?
I know you're at the Sandy Hook school, but where are you in the school?
We're outside.
You're outside.
Somebody saw I got a running.
Okay,
outside and they're getting shot.
Okay, you got to calm down. Were you shot, or was anybody near you shot?
Anybody? I see a guy. A girl.
Did you see? Okay, ma'am, you got to calm down. Okay. Did you see the shooter?
No. The policeman is here.
Okay, so you're with the policeman?
But we need an ambulance.
Okay, where do you need the ambulance, ma'am?
Yeah, because one girl got shot, and they asking for ambulance right there. They don't let to go to the school.
Okay, where do you need the ambulance?
In Sandy Hook School in Newtown Police.
I know where in Newtown, but where are you? Are you inside the building or are you on the
Yeah,
ground?
they asking. The people are asking for ambulance. I don't know. I'm gonna hang up. I'm gonna check on my husband.
Okay, all right. We'll get
So that is
somebody
4
else, okay?
911 calls that support the officer description of the scene, what we see on dash cam, and what we saw in the photo that was released December 14, 2012. So all of that matches. The state police did not release the audio of the EMS traffic that was going on at the time, so what we still have is the audio that was released from Radio Man the day of the shooting. And so we will go back to that. So A2 Newtown is one of the two ambulances that were first there on scene. So Newtown A2 and A3.
Hey, guys, you should have Newtown on scene with 2 sergeants and another patrol car.
A2 Newtown, might we possibly need a second medic?
By way of information, the paramedics and EMTs in Newtown A2 and A3 are actually employees of Danbury Ambulance Service. Newtown contracts with Danbury Ambulance Service. We hear Newtown A2 announce that they're upstaging right as we see on the dash cam that they're arriving.
A2 is that staging?
And right behind Newtown A2 is Newtown A3.
Negative on description. Okay, shots were fired about 3 minutes ago. Quiet at the time.
Left at the light. We're having trouble finding Dickerson.
The ambulance is staged, but they're starting to hear calls for an ambulance to go down into the scene. They announce it on the radio.
A2 is proceeding to the scene on the request of police department.
And also at this time, the radio is really starting to call for lots of ambulances and medical help. They're not aware that everybody's deceased yet, so...
982 Bay. Do we have to see that anywhere nearby?
What was your last minute? Yeah. Going to your location. Confirmed? At this point, it's all we know at the time. Just been told by A2 that they're proceeding to your location. Is that confirmed that you want their arrival? Stand by. Units in front of the school are conducting an interior search at this time. Please delay for that.
Out of A3.
Hello?
A3. Which one of you EMS units was proceeding into the scene, A2 or A3?
A2 and A3 want to know if we should go in also.
Time. PD has not requested your arrival at that scene yet.
The paramedics that are there at the time that end up treating the early patients are Robert Velitri. I have difficulty saying that name. Robert Velitri. And paramedic Daniel Bradley along with several EMTs. A2 treats the girl. A3 later treats Hammond, who was injured in room 9, and also the boy they extricate from room 8. Okay, so that was the scene. It's a terrible scene. It's a heart-wrenching scene. That's going to do it for my look at this. I think when you have so much corroborating evidence about one specific thing, witness statements, video, audio, you have stuff produced by civilians like Shannon Hicks, and you have corroborating evidence that's been produced from police dash cam and police 911 calls, and you have all these things together. It's pretty conclusive, and it's literally undeniable. It is a mountain of evidence to support what happened here. I'm C.W. Wade. This is Sandy Hook Facts. These are the facts. That'll do it for this episode of Sandy Hook, the Deadliest Minute.
I think what I would say is that a number of us imagined what it must have felt like on 9/11 when there were people bracing for scores of injured and they didn't arrive. Shortly after 10 a.m. that the first responders, the paramedics, the police, the state police were enormously cooperative, and we worked together to try to process information as rapidly as we could. And we received 3 people, and that's as much as I'm going to say at this moment in time.